Fast fashion brands rule the high street, beating rivals and drawing in customers with a never-ending choice of clothes in the latest styles, all at rock-bottom prices.
I am tempted to get a new outfit every time I go out.
Well out of sight from shoppers and far away from the catwalks, the spiralling levels of consumption encouraged by these stores is having a devastating impact on the natural world.
You can buy a dress cheaper than you can buy a cup of coffee and a sandwich these days, which for me is disgusting.
Carbon emissions produced by the global fashion industry have now surpassed aviation and shipping combined, while the equivalent of a rubbish truck full of clothes ends up in landfill every second. However, as awareness of these issues grow, environmentally conscious entrepreneurs, designers and fashionistas are working to change how people think about clothing and offer sustainable alternatives to conventional ways of shopping.
I don't understand people's mindset, so what if it's second-hand? That stigma absolutely needs to be dropped.
We're not saying don't buy anything new ever again, we're not saying that at all. We're just saying use this as an opportunity to slow down, think about your consumerism and take stock really.
Millions of people like Jess, a 21-year-old from Newcastle, are part of a new era of shoppers that have grown up in a world where clothes can be bought with just a click of a button, and for so little money that they're virtually disposable. Trawling websites in search of new outfits for pleasure rather than necessity has become a routine in many homes across the UK.
So I tend to shop online a lot of the time, basically all of the time. It's like a way to switch your mind off, I think, just aimlessly scrolling through. Some of the websites are actually terrifying though, like that Shein. There's so many products and so many filters and so many categories that it's just a headache. Like I'll actively sometimes just avoid it because I'm just like, it's such a faff to do. But I definitely think it is retail therapy, not the same way that it is walking through town and looking at the clothes on the hangers, and it's not this up to the same extent, but I do think it is a form of retail therapy, definitely.
The culture of overconsumption has been fueled even further due to the rise of social media, as many young people have begun to alter their behaviour due to a perceived pressure to appear fashionable online.
When I was in Paris last week, I had this dress, something else, and the other dress had like a rip, which I didn't realise, and I had like a full-on mental breakdown. So I was like, I cannot wear this dress twice, because I went to the Louvre one day and then the Eiffel Tower the next day, and I was like, I really want to get 2 Instagram posts, but if I have the same dress on, it's going to be not a vibe at all.
This attitude towards clothing has been shaped by fast fashion brands for the last 2 decades, and it is a mindset which has allowed them to make billions. Alistair Waite has 30 years of experience as a designer for some of Europe's biggest labels, but in recent years he has devoted more time to educating the industry's next generation.
Fast fashion is getting something to the consumer as quickly as possible that they need. It doesn't follow any season. It's usually a weekly or a bi-weekly drop. So it's creating, I think, a hysteria about something and making the person who's viewing that thinking they need it straight away. That is almost like fast fashion, and to get it to them as quickly as possible by any route which is as quick as possible. You can buy a dress cheaper than you can buy a cup of coffee and a sandwich these days, which for me is disgusting.
The average consumer now purchases 60% more clothing than they did 15 years ago. This kind of consumption has led Inditex, the company behind brands such as Zara, Massimo Dutti and Bershka, to make more than 27 billion euros in sales last year. This level of success means the fashion industry and its production of waste is projected to increase a further 60% by 2030. And despite claims from many brands about improved sustainability and eco-friendly products, currently less than 1% of clothes are recycled into new clothes. With natural resources already under threat, and the fashion industry showing no signs of stopping this harm, there is a growing number of designers, entrepreneurs and forward thinkers who are determined to make a change. This movement is called slow fashion. Companies like White Rose are taking the fight to high street chains and changing the way we think about charity shops. Dominic is part of their marketing team and explained from their head office in Nottingham what he feels sets them apart.
So we've got our standard shops where we've kind of got our designer items, our better items, probably more fashionable items, But our outlet stores is also reducing that waste by giving people kind of B grade stock, and then even the stuff under that is going to upcycling. We've got a team at the warehouse that are upcycling. We've just launched a tote bag range, which has been made from all damaged denim items. And then even below that as well, so everything that we can't get into our stores, that we can't upcycle, it's just been loved too much, worn too much, we send to a textile recycler who then turn them fibres into other items.
Shopping at charity shops may still be the most traditional way people engage with slow fashion. However, reselling items from your wardrobe through apps like Vinted and Depop has made second-hand clothing more popular than ever. Ed Perkin is a slow fashion entrepreneur and has made a living from worn clothes. He started a Depop page trading in hard-to-get vintage items when he was just 15 and grew to be one of the platform's biggest sellers. He has launched a used wholesale company called EdTex. Based in Dubai, it saves thousands of garments from going to landfill in poorer countries, getting them back into circulation by supplying vintage sellers in the West.
As I progressed through the stages of getting bigger and bigger and dealing with more clothes, you kind of realise, whoa, there's so much stuff out there, and basically, am I making any impact, or am I just, such a small speck in the bigger field? And as it's kind of evolved into now we're doing the bigger scale wholesale and doing containers, you think, well, I guess we are having an impact, but I think there's still so far for it to go. And it will happen, but it's really trying to convince and hope that the bigger players, the H&Ms, the Urban Outfitters, will sort of evolve.
As eco-conscious shoppers are looking for innovative ways to fill their wardrobes without damaging the environment, a community of swappers is steadily growing. Zoe Sussmeyer started The Big Swap in 2021, an event with a focus on inclusivity when she noticed there was a serious lack of ethical options for plus-size shoppers. She's confident events like hers have the potential to become a familiar sight.
I like the idea of circular fashion, keeping things going, extending the life cycle of them. People love seeing other people pick up their clothes. So often people will have a wardrobe full of items that they've not worn, and sometimes it's because they feel that they're a little bit too good to send to charity, they've spent a lot of money on it, or they've got an emotional attachment to it. And what they do is they actually bring it to a swap event because they know they're getting something in return. And the feedback that I get is that people love to see other people in their clothes, so they know where it's gone.
To show people the difference they're making, Zoe shares statistics after each swap. Just one zero-waste event like this prevented 300 kilograms of clothing from going to landfill and saved a further 12 tons of CO2 emissions. Slow fashion isn't solely about people finding sustainable ways to get new things to wear. It's also about keeping what they already have in circulation for longer. Gail Bennett owns a vintage clothing store, but her biggest passion lies in repairing clothes to help reduce throwaway fashion waste. She's convinced that decades of poorly manufactured products from fast fashion brands have warped the way many people think about the longevity of garments.
It surprises me. I think we've got so much more work to do and education, but it surprises me at the things that people bring in and think that it's not going to be repairable. Obviously, sometimes there is clothing that, it might have a tear down the centre where it's not got a seam and we have to do some kind of visible repair. But I think that there's real beauty in visible mending, because you kind of see the journey and the story of what that garment's taken on, and somebody loves that item, so they've decided to go and get it fixed, and there's more, it's a more conscious choice rather than going out and buying new.
The future of fashion lies in the hands of a new generation of designers and leaders entering the industry today. After attending a music festival, environmentally conscious creative Grace Reeves was astounded by the amount of rubbish left behind. This moment inspired her to produce a fashion collection made entirely from discarded tents and waste from the campsite to spark conversations about sustainable design.
They've worked out really well in my work because they're waterproof and windproof, so for the coat it's actually perfect and ready for the weather, and hopefully my story and my idea of upcycling tents inspires other people to look at random materials and think, how can I use this and use their imagination to solve problems and reduce waste.
Despite the success of her collection, she feels policymakers have the responsibility to do more.
I feel like politics plays a really vital role in how our future is going to be shaped, and there's only so much the consumer can do, and there needs to be more systemic change in how businesses operate and the materials they use and the regulations behind what is good and what is actually ecologically devastating.
7 of the UK's largest brands associated with fast fashion were contacted to comment on the changes they have made to improve sustainability and whether they would be introducing any elements of slow fashion into their business. Just 2 responded, providing links to the sustainability sections of their websites. All declined to be interviewed.
Society is at a critical juncture. Fast fashion and the allure of cheap clothing continues to grow, but an ever-increasing spotlight on the damage this industry creates is fueling a culture of slow fashion, burgeoning with reusers, resellers and recyclers. Together, they are providing shoppers with an alternative way to get their fashion fix, but more importantly, they are helping people to rediscover the value of clothing.
What does someone expect from a £10 dress? Is it going to last? We should buy more clothes that will last longer rather than clothes that are going to fall apart after one wash or be seen as out of fashion or so last week. We should invest in garments because people actually make these garments, they make patterns for them, they choose fabric, so their garments need respect. It's not disposable, it should not be disposable.